alaikum, everyone. My name is Fatima Iqbal, and I'm happy to join you today. Today we're going to explore how smart giving and endowments can really create that lasting impact when it comes to philanthropy. One of the rewarding aspects of my work is really when I get to help clients increase their charitable impact and find ways where they can give smarter and also more effectively. And part of that is helping them shift from being in a donor mindset to a philanthropist mindset. So today, again, I'm excited to share some of that information with you as well. So you might be thinking, what's really the difference between a philanthropist and a donor? Or, I can't be a philanthropist. I don't have millions of dollars to give away. But really, a donor is just anyone who gives away something. Usually it's going to be money, but also time or services. And donations can often be one time, they can be recurring. But donors may not necessarily be deeply involved in the cause. And the term I would say is generally, it's a broad term. It includes anyone who wants to give something to a charity. It could range from $5 to something, to fund a major initiative. But a philanthropist, on the other hand, is someone who is going to engage in strategic, sustained giving. And the difference here is now the goal. The goal becomes creating long-term social impact. So, philanthropy can involve larger financial contributions, but I would say more importantly, it's really a commitment to solving a systemic issue, like what Brother Humayun was talking about today with healthcare. And again, philanthropists can establish foundations, they can fund this work, and they can work closely. But today I want to share with you some ideas which can hopefully help us shift from the idea of being a donor to really starting to think of ourselves and acting as philanthropists. And alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we're urged to spend in the way of Allah, freely, openly. And, we know charity is really the best form of investment that can really enrich our lives. So the strategies that we're going to talk about today are going to talk about multiplying the dollar value of what we have to give. But I find it very interesting that we don't have to look far to really understand that multiplier effect. So again, as we shift our mindset from donor to philanthropist, I think it's also an opportunity for us to reflect on this promise, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually told us in Surah Baqarah, that the example of those who spend in their wealth in the cause of Allah is that of a grain that sprouts into 7 ears, each bearing 100 grains. And Allah multiplies the reward even more to whoever He wills, for Allah is all bountiful and all knowing. So again, with that why for us answer, let's get into a better understanding of what smart giving is. Now, smart giving is really, like Brother Humayun said, it goes beyond necessarily writing a check from your cash. It's going to be strategic, and it also considers how we can give more. And that is often accomplished when we give less to taxes. So when we talk about charitable giving, we're also talking about our social dollars. And with our social dollars, either we can pay taxes and our government is going to decide what social causes that money is used towards, or the government does give us an option where we can choose to give gifts to tax-deductible organizations and claim a charitable deduction. So I wanted to kind of go a little bit through how that practically applies to your tax return. And so right now, the government has an option. The IRS allows you to either claim what is known as a standard deduction, which is right now around $15,750 if you're filing single, or $31,500 if you're married, filing jointly. Or instead of a standard deduction, you can claim an itemized deduction. Now, common itemized deductions that a lot of people would have on their tax return are going to include state and local taxes. Again, that can be deducted within certain limits now, mortgage interest expense, and charitable contributions. So here I have an example of someone who donated $50,000 to charity in 2024. And you can see that because their itemized deductions exceeded the standard deduction, their charitable contribution actually allowed them to have a deduction which exceeded the standard deduction by almost $30,000, $30,800, right? So again, understanding how our charitable deductions are taken within our tax return can be important as we start talking about how are we going to give more impactfully. Now, there's also several other factors that can also influence the tax benefits that we obtain from charitable giving. And the first is that the tax benefits depend on the entity that's receiving your donation. So if it's a public charity like Helping Hand for Relief and Development, or it could be a private foundation. Oftentimes those might be established by families during their lifetime. But again, the primary determinant of the tax benefit is going to be in the type of property that you give away. So here we can consider two examples. We consider giving cash and long-term capital gains assets. So with cash donations, they're a straightforward way to give. Basically, they're going to give you a deduction that's capped at 60% of your adjusted gross income for a single calendar year. But if you donate stocks or other assets that have long-term capital gains, it can be common again to have that deduction again now capped at a 30% of your adjusted gross income. So again, it's worth noting that any donation that exceeds these limits can also be carried forward for up to 5 years. Now, the tax law has also recently changed. Some of you may be familiar with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that was passed this year. So that's introducing some changes when it comes to charitable deductions as well. Beginning in 2026, there's going to be a reinstated deduction, which is going to allow people to take actually up to $1,000 if they're single, and $2,000 for married filing jointly, even if they're claiming the standard deduction. So again, that can benefit those people, even if they're taking the standard deduction, still to be able to claim those charitable contributions they make. So don't lose those receipts. But the legislation is also going to affect people that are in the higher tax brackets. There's actually now going to be a floor where, again, 0.5% of AGI is going to be essentially eliminated from your charitable gift. And the legislation is going to cap the tax benefits of itemized deductions at 35%, even for those people that are in the highest 37% marginal tax bracket. So basically what that means, if those high income tax filers donate $1,000, they're going to receive about $350 in tax savings rather than the current $370. So if you are a donor in a high tax bracket and you're considering making, a philanthropic gift, you may want to think about accelerating that gift to 2025, again, to maximize that deduction under the current law, under the current marginal rate before these new caps come into effect. So, now that we've kind of talked a little bit about, how charity affects our taxes, I want to talk a little bit from the nonprofit perspective. As we know, effective charity takes sustainable funding. So as Brother Humayun said, it's going to take admin costs, and nonprofits are still susceptible to economic downturns, funding gaps. So this is really where endowments can come into place. And these are essentially funds that are invested to generate income for a nonprofit over time. And they really can become essential for financial stability. Again, alhamdulillah, Helping Hand for Relief and Development are now growing their endowments to ensure that they're ready and able to continue their charitable work, irrespective of donor cash flows. So I thought I'd just take a little bit of time to explain the concept of endowment, if that's new to anyone. But an endowment simply is a gift that is made. So if I make a contribution, for example, to the endowment, this can help form the principal. This is the amount of money that is put in. That money is then invested. And of course, in order for it to be invested in a halal way and for that money to go halal, we have to make sure that it's following certain guidelines. But again, when that money is invested, again, the principal can be protected and income can now continue to grow that account. And over time, again, a portion of that fund's value can be distributed to the charity's benefit forever. So this is a way and a form of perpetual giving. And again, as many of us recognize, Sadaqa Jariyah. Now, you also may have heard of the term waqf, so I thought I'd also kind of go over this. And you may have associated this with the idea of endowment. Now, waqf is actually something that originated in the early Islamic civilization as, again, a religious and charitable institution where property was donated for public benefit, and its use was governed, again, according to the Sharia. Now, during the 11th to 13th centuries, the Europeans actually encountered Islamic legal and admin systems, including the waqf. And again, ultimately, they took this observation back, and the idea of waqf is essentially what developed the concept of trust that we have today. So again, we can be very proud of our history that, really the Islamic civilization is the one that brought this idea again, and what we see now as kind of like people and other organizations having as endowments. So a waqf is simply a specialized endowment that's established under, again, the Islamic principles. And waqf, the term itself in Arabic, it means containment or preservation. And again, the practice dates back to the time of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. And it's again played a vital role throughout Islamic history. If you visit, other countries, Turkey, Egypt, others, you will see an awqaf, that are still there today. And again, it's a beautiful way for us to be able to continue that ongoing charity and have that lasting impact that continues to benefit communities for generations. Now, there are some distinctions between what would be known as a general endowment and a waqf. So I thought I would just clarify that as well. Again, a waqf now becomes a form of worship. So we have to make sure that the assets are lawful and they're Sharia compliant, because again, we need to ensure that the income coming from this is also halal. In the case of a waqf, assets also have to remain in existence. They can't be consumable. Again, we're protecting the principal and only using from the income. The waqf also can only serve a lawful purpose. So again, we have to make sure that, again, if we're benefiting society, it has to be done in a lawful and a halal way. And also the beneficiaries are going to, again, receive the benefit from the income. So the principle, again, is being preserved over time. Now, again, donors and philanthropists, they play a big role in helping organizations establish endowments and reach this kind of sustainability. So let's talk a little bit next about what type of assets that you, as inshallah philanthropist, can consider giving. When is a good time to give, and how that charitable giving can be more impactful, and not just for the charity, but also for you as an individual. Now, again, most donors, they're going to make their donations from cash, which is simple, it's convenient. You can choose how much you want to give. You just write a check, use your credit card. But I was actually at a fundraiser, and I really appreciated the fact that the speaker who was doing the fundraising said, make sure that if you're giving with your credit card, make sure you're paying off the balance, because again, we don't want, again, the donation to be from debt. It needs to be from assets that you have. So make sure you pay off your credit card, if you are making your donations through credit card. But you can also, in addition to just using your cash, you may want to consider donating long-term appreciated securities. Those can be, for example, stocks that you have in your portfolio, mutual funds. There's also opportunities to be able to donate real estate, private company stock, and even cryptocurrency is now becoming a popular asset that people are used for donation. And again, another opportunity is if you have a retirement account. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but there are opportunities after the age of 70 and a half to actually utilize your retirement account also as a charitable giving vehicle. Now, choosing again which of these vehicles makes sense for you is going to depend, on your planning, on your family values, on tax considerations. So again, I'm offering a lot of these, but again, it's important to make sure that the one you ultimately choose is going to be what fits your family best. So let's first talk about giving through appreciated securities. Now, for those of you who have investments with stocks that have increased in value, and a lot of people are experiencing this with the rise of the stock market, this can be a great opportunity for you to give more impactfully. Now, if these securities, again, are in a taxable account, they're not in an IRA. In this case, they are going to be taxed with a capital gains rate. So if we take a look at a scenario where, again, you purchased stocks maybe 10 years ago for $15,000, and now those have gone up to $50,000. If you sell them, you're going to be paying a capital gains tax. But instead of selling the shares and donating the money, you have another option. You could also donate the stock directly to the charity. So if we compare these two scenarios, you can actually see that in the case where you actually sell the stock, you're going to have to pay taxes. In this example, it'd be about $8,330. This is at the highest tax rates. That means after taxes, you would have about $41,670 to donate, and your total tax savings would be around $15,400. But instead, if you go ahead and you donate that share directly, you can completely avoid paying the capital gains tax. So what you give is actually $50,000, although your own contribution was only $15,000. And here now you've been able to get a higher personal tax savings and you've been able to give more. So again, this is a win-win, not just for the organization, but even for you as a philanthropist. Now, this strategy works really well. It can, for stocks, it can also work for mutual funds. Like I mentioned, you avoid paying that capital gains tax. You do get a deduction on the full market value of the shares as long as you had held those shares for at least 1 year. And again, once those shares are donated to the organization, they can, again, liquidate them and make sure that they are invested according to the appropriate risk for that account. So next, let's talk about donor-advised funds. Now, a donor-advised fund, or a DAF, is a giving account that is set up between a donor and a sponsoring tax-exempt charitable entity, which acts as a DAF sponsor. So when you contribute to a donor-advised fund, you're making a donation to that charity, and in return, you're able to have the option to recommend how those funds are granted to other charities over time. And these contributions are actually tax deductible in the year that they're made. So once the donor advised fund or DAF is funded, the donor, or they can designate someone else, can recommend how much to give, when to give, and which 501c3 charities they want to support. Now, these suggestions are actually non-binding, and the donor advised fund sponsor will confirm that the charity that you requested money to go to meets IRS tax exempt guidelines. So this is also another win-win. So with the donor advised fund, the donor advised fund is going to make sure that the organization you're giving to meets all the IRS tax exempt requirements. Helping Hand for Relief and Development is one of these organizations. And again, so you're able to take an upfront tax deduction, but be able to control and recommend, I should say, where that donation goes in the future. So again, that donor advised fund can allow you to claim a deduction in the year that you contribute the asset. So this is really helpful for people who want to accelerate their deduction. So let's say, for example, this has been a year where maybe you've sold some property, you've sold a business, you have extra capital gains, you have extra income, or you have additional stock options that have vested, and you have higher income because of that. And you're looking to see, okay, well, how can I offset that in this year, right? So in that case, being able to take a higher deduction this year might make a lot more sense. If I give, for example, $3,000 a month to a charity, and that's about $36,000 a year. Well, if I continue to do that this year, that's fine. But what if I, was able to fast forward the next 5 years worth of donations and take a deduction of $180,000? Well, this year, when I have higher income, that deduction is going to be a lot more valuable to me. And so by doing that, I am now able to take a higher deduction, but I'm able to secure that money again to continue giving to charities of my choice in the future. And again, this works also really well for people who are looking to retire soon, because again, these deductions are beneficial in years where you have higher income. But again, if you're going to be retiring soon, that deduction may not be as valuable later on. So again, accelerating charitable gifts and charitable deductions now may become more important. So donor advised funds, they offer several benefits. One of them is, again, that immediate tax deduction that I mentioned. You can contribute cash, or you can contribute appreciated stocks as well. And I would say, again, it also allows you not to have to rush your donation decisions. Right now it's end of the year. A lot of people are thinking, oh, should I get more in my deductions before December 31st? A donor advised fund allows you to get that deduction without having to rush your giving. It can also make donating more simple. So again, I would say it's a smart choice for donors who want to give strategically, but may not want to go and set up their own foundation and deal with all of that record keeping. It can help streamline, that record keeping as well for you. So instead of tracking multiple donation receipts throughout the year, you only need to track the contribution that you made to your donor advised fund. And finally, I would even say that Another benefit that donor advised funds allows is that you can also give more discreetly. So if you want to give in the name of your fund, you want to give anonymously, you're able to do so. And again, this is also something that I think that resonates with us as Muslims, because again, the idea of donating with sincerity and humility, is important. And we often think about the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, where you give so much that the left hand does not know what the right hand is given. So again, donor advised funds can be a great option for people that are looking to give, again, more strategically. One thing that I would say, again, when we talk about giving, we want to make sure whatever we are giving is also halal. So not all donor advised funds are the same. Some donor advised funds, they're going to have limited investment options where you're not going to have a halal option of how that money is invested and grown. So you need to be careful. There are solutions out there. Of course, Azzad offers a donor advised fund where you can, have halal investment options. There are a few others out there as well. So that's something I would just urge people to make sure that you're careful about when you're setting up or using a donor advised fund. So next, I wanted to also talk about giving through your IRA. I had mentioned this earlier. So understanding what a qualified charitable deduction is can actually start with talking about what a required minimum distribution is. So any of you who are joining us who are above the age of 73, you may be already familiar with what an RMD is. But for those of you who are not, an RMD is basically the minimum amount of money that you have to withdraw from your retirement account every year, beginning at the age of 73. So typically that means that when you pull that money out, it's going to be taxable to you. But the IRS does have an option where you can actually give that money directly to charity. And when you do that, it's called a qualified charitable deduction. And when you do this, again, you can transfer money directly from your IRA to a nonprofit organization like Helping Hand for Relief and Development. And you can do it so that, again, it does not increase your federal income. And also, you are not having to increase your adjusted gross income from a federal perspective. Now, some states may still include that income on the state level, but again, from the federal level, it's not going to be included. So again, the amount is excluded from your taxable income. One of the requirements is that it has to go to a qualified 501c3 organization. So again, Helping Hand for Relief and Development is one of those. Also, again, many masajid, other nonprofit organizations can qualify as well. And the max that you can give from your IRA this way is $108,000. This is increasing a little bit, every year. And you have to be at least 70 and a half to be able to do this. So this is another great option where people can say, look, I want to give, but most of my assets are tied up in a retirement account, an IRA. Again, your IRA can actually become a charitable giving vehicle for you after the age of 70 and a half. And for those of us who are still, in our earning years and thinking, okay, should I put money into my retirement plan, or, should I, maybe hold off and not contribute too much to it? Again, remember that these vehicles can ultimately have dual purposes. So in this case, an IRA is not only helping you save for your own retirement, but could be, again, a charitable giving vehicle for you in the future. This is just a quick example to kind of show you how the numbers work out for someone who, takes from their IRA first and gives to charity versus someone who directly gives from their IRA to that charity. So without a QCD, actually, you can see that in this case, someone who is 78 years old would end up paying about $27,000 on a $20,000 gift. But if they do it through a QCD, it actually will save them about $4,400. And I've actually run this scenario for clients. And in some situations, again, we realize it can be a huge tax savings for them. And again, allowing them to give more and give more effectively. So moving on to planned gifts, a planned gift is simply like a contribution that is arranged in the present and it's allocated to a future date. So most common gifts, and I know there's a few other inshallah sessions that are planned talking about estate planning, but one of these ways is donating through a will or a trust. And again, that means that donation actually happens after the donor has passed away. There's also certain assets that you might have, like life insurance policies, IRAs, where you can note a beneficiary, and the beneficiary can be a charitable organization. Again, certain assets might be better to name a charitable organization. For example, if you have an IRA, whenever your heirs inherit that IRA and they pull money out, they're going to have to pay income tax on it. So if you instead leave a portion of that IRA to charity, then that means that the charity, of course, doesn't have to pay taxes on it. So, is it a good idea maybe to leave a larger amount of the taxable account, to individual heirs, and maybe a portion to charitable organization of the IRA to charitable organizations? These are planning ideas, but again, we have to do it all in a way that fits within the Islamic inheritance planning as well. And finally, there are options to use charitable trusts. So there are charitable remainder trusts, there are charitable lead trusts. These are different types of trusts that you can put together, and they can, I would say, serve dual purposes, where again they can provide income either to yourself or to a charity, and then they can either have remainder amounts that again go back to your family or go to charity. So those are also sometimes worth exploring, depending on again how much you're looking to give. So I know that was a lot of information, but I want to also be careful with time. Again, we appreciate everyone joining on a Thursday evening. But again, when it comes to that why we give, ultimately it comes down to, inshallah, the reward that we're looking for, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that whoever gives charity equivalent to a date from, again, halal, lawful earnings, only Allah accepts what is pure, and Allah will accept it with his right hand and will nurture it for him as one of you who nurtures his soul until it becomes like a mountain. So may Allah accept it from all of us. And I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And with that, I'll hand it back to Brother Humayun, Brother Shannon.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Fatima, Iqbal. Wonderful presentation. I think we're all astounded by all of the knowledge and information that you shared with us. Brother Humayun, do you want to show the video before Q&A, or do you want to go ahead with Q&A first?
No, we can take questions first, and
Okay.
then we do the video at the closing after my remarks.
Okay, so we'll take questions from the audience. If you feel comfortable, you are welcome to unmute yourself. Or I think you can raise your hand also. I think it's interactive Zoom, or you can post your question Q&A. I also have some of my own questions, but we'll give it to the audience first. If there's any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or post it in the chat, inshallah. Let's give everyone a minute or two.
While they are thinking, Shonan, ask one of your questions, so it will give them think and write.
Sure, yeah. One of my questions is, let's say someone passes away. We'll use, like, I don't know, Ahmed as an example. It's like my middle name, but let's say he passes away. Does the person who passes away who wants to, like, utilize the transfer of, like, an IRA, for example, he has a Roth IRA, there's $100,000 in it. Does he have to have an executor of the estate, or is the next in line? Like, say he leaves a wife behind, can she do it on her own, or is there some kind of requirement that there's an official executor, like a bank or like the local lawyer where Ahmed lived?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say it ultimately boils down to the kind of planning that they did during their lifetime. So if they didn't do any planning and they have that IRA and they didn't put a beneficiary designation in place, they didn't have a will, then essentially what happens is that the asset is going to pass according to their state's laws. It's called their intestacy laws. And so they're not going to have a choice, and the family won't have a choice, essentially, how that's distributed. Of course, like if the state's law says half goes to the spouse, their other half is divided and distributed among living children, and those children or spouses then decide, oh, well, now that I've gotten the money, I want to do something with it, that's fine. But again, that's up to those individuals. Now, instead, what this person could have done is, they could have established a will or a revocable trust that said, of my assets, this is how much I want to go to charity. For example, they could set up a wasiya where they say up to 1/3, I want it to go to charity. That's one way that they could do it. They could also do it through their beneficiary designation. So, for example, in that same account, they could say, I want, up to 1/3 to go to Helping Hand for Relief and Development. Now, interestingly, you mentioned Roth IRA. So not to complicate the question too much, but Roth IRA is actually an after-tax account. So when we go back to taxation and we're talking about efficiency, even with estate distribution, and we're saying, okay, I want the most effective way to make sure that I give the most to my family and I give the most to charity. Now, a Roth IRA, because when, let's say, like, you inherit this Roth IRA from Ahmed, in this case, you're not going to pay taxes on the Roth IRA. So it's a great asset to give, for example, leave to, to family members. But if you receive an IRA, which is pre-tax, you're going to have to pay income tax on it when you pull that money out. So in this case, it may be more beneficial, for example, to leave part of the pre-tax IRA to charity, because when the charity receives it, they don't have to pay tax, and leave the Roth IRA again fully to family members. So again, in that scenario, you try to optimize, the amount that's left with the least amount of taxation. And there's a follow-up question. In that scenario, does money go to the state if someone doesn't have a will? So usually in this case, they will try to, again, it will go to the family members typically. So states all have what's called intestacy laws. So you can look up what the intestacy law is for your state, what the distribution is. I was actually just looking at Illinois law today, and it's, half of it goes to the spouse, half of it goes, I think, to children equally. So, it'll just go to whatever the state says. Again, if maybe they can't find, family members or things like that, it's possible that, again, that amount might be stuck. But again, I would say, avoiding all that, the best thing is really to make sure that you have at the least a will in place, a last will and testament, and then also maybe consider, again, a revocable living trust. Can anyone claim taxes after you pass in this scenario? So just to clarify that question, depending on what asset someone receives, for example, that may be an asset which, again, they have to pay taxes on when they pull the money out, or they might receive it, outright if you already paid taxes in your lifetime on it. So for example, if this is, again, an IRA account where you never pay taxes on this money, and now it's going to your surviving spouse or it's going to children, in that case, when they pull that money out, they're going to have to pay income taxes on that money at their tax rate at that time. But if it's money that you've already paid taxes on, like in a Roth IRA, then no, they don't have to pay taxes on it, but they do have to pull out that money within a certain time period. I hope that answered the question.
If someone is looking for an executor, does Azzad offer these services, and do you offer will services also if someone wants to create their Islamic will with you?
Yeah, so actually at Azzad, we are fiduciary financial planners. So we actually work with lawyers and estate planning professionals, again, to help our clients build out those kinds of plans. So we don't actually create wills, we don't we don't draft trusts. And same thing, like, because we're fiduciaries, we don't take what is called custody of assets. So we always have our clients' money, again, with a third party, for example, custodian, like, for example, Fidelity or Schwab or Goldman Sachs. We don't retain custody of the assets. And so we also don't act as executor or trustee in those capacities, because, again, that would mean that we would be considered custodians. So we don't offer that, but the way that we work with clients is oftentimes we're going to be talking about all of these issues, understanding kind of what their assets are, what their goals are, and then figuring out how do we fit all these pieces together, right? How do we get all this accomplished, but still staying within the Islamic framework? So we then work with attorneys. So not every attorney is going to be versed, and I would say, there aren't a lot of attorneys that are well versed on Islamic inheritance. So we'll also work with our clients and the attorney to make sure that the estate plan that is actually put into place follows those Islamic guidelines. But there are other services. I think Brother Humayun might talk about them as well. Other partners that Helping Hand for Relief and Development have that do offer these services.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, brother.
If somebody has an irrevocable trust, what I just hear you saying is, does Azzad has a service that can help them review that from Islamic lenses, even if whether they're Azzad clients or not? Is that something that?
Yeah, at this stage, we're only have the capacity really to review it for our existing clients. So for our clients, we do review again their trust documents, irrevocable and revocable trusts, their wills, and I would even say documents which people don't think about but are also very important are going to be healthcare directives and power of attorney. Because while we think about, well, what happens to us after we're gone, there can be also periods in our life maybe where we're incapacitated, and we need to make sure that we have healthcare directives and power of attorney also, so those people are appointed to make those kinds of important decisions, for us.
Yes, thank you.
Sure, but if you're interested, you can go to our website and book a free consultation just to learn more about what we do, and we can get a better idea of what you're interested in as well.
Yeah, okay, that would be good. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I think there's another question in the chat from Brother Zeki, if you want to read it. What nightmare scenarios have you seen due to lack of planning? I'm sure there's a lot of different scenarios, but if you want to sum it up, I don't know.
Oh, yes, there are a lot of.
Oh, go ahead.
Only from Brother Zaki, that question.
There's the reason why I'm asking these questions is because there's not a lot of awareness about estate planning in especially in the community, and I'm just trying to understand how much money is could have gone to good causes and people end up in undesirable outcome towards the end of their life or after they pass away.
Yeah, subhanAllah. I mean, I was actually just talking with a colleague today, and we were remembering, one of our clients who really wanted to basically create a lab for Quranic studies, and this was something that he was not doing well. He really wanted to do, and he had told his family that they were interested. He was interested in doing this. And basically, his illness progressed so quickly that at one point he called my colleague who was his primary advisor and said, can you please pick me up and take me to the bank so I can write the check? He was that desperate to get this done. And subhanAllah, he passed away before he could actually do it. And the sad story is that, again, unfortunately, his family had other ideas, about what they wanted to do with the money and how it should be used. And ultimately, his wish was not completed. And so those are the kinds of things that, again, there could have been a lot of impact, and he had the niyyah, he had the intention of doing that good. But again, that lack of planning or foresight, is something that, again, ultimately, it was sad. And of course, even when it comes to, wealth generation and wealth protection, right? There's obviously a lot of things that we do where we again see real life scenarios of people who and families again that end up being hurt just because there wasn't proper planning. So again, I can't say enough about the importance of trying to do that, whenever you are capable and competent, because again, we never know. And it's also not a one-time thing, right? So a lot of times, oh, I did my will, it's there. Well, over time, things change, laws change also. So the estate plan that you created maybe, 15, 20 years ago, maybe not be the most efficient now, because again, tax laws change over time, and estate taxes change as well. So right now, unless you have close to about $15 million, you likely will not be taxed whenever you transfer money to others, either during your lifetime or death. But there are states which also have an estate tax, which is a lot lower. So people sometimes don't realize, oh, in my state, I don't have up to 15 million to give without estate taxes. That limit is actually a lot lower, and I might have to pay estate taxes to my state if I don't do some active planning.
Jazakallah khair. If there's any last questions before I think when we wrap up.
Yes. Can I follow up with a quick
Go ahead.
comment
Go
or
ahead.
any
Yep.
question?
Please.
I'll go with the question.
Will we get this recording available in the emails?
Yes, you will. Give us a couple of days. We'll clean it up and then we'll circulate it for all who have signed up on this webinar tonight.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Inshallah.
Yeah,
Just an FYI, whatever webinars we do under plan giving, they are all available on our website, hhrd.org/plan giving. So if you,
Yeah.
for some reason, don't get an email in a week or 10 days, it should be available through our website.
Inshallah. I think I wanted to just follow up on Brother Zaki's question and your comment. For me, I think the takeaway that first slide you had is a big aha moment, right? Because not a lot of community members understand what donation is versus what tax is. Like for me, that was like, oh my God, it's the same thing, right? So I think we need to echo these message a lot more to have that ripple effect, because people just feel like, okay, I'm paying to IRS, but they could, it could go further when they go the other way. Because that was really impactful for me.
Yeah. I see one more question. I don't know if we have time to take it, maybe a few more minutes.
Yeah, we can. We had time till 8 o'clock to take questions and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay, so the question asked from the other perspective, what is the best way to connect regarding starting an endowment? Actually, this has been a project that we've been working on for a long time because, again, all of us have a desire that we want to leave a lasting legacy. And up until now, the idea of creating a waqf or an endowment personally, right, for families has been to take the route of creating a family foundation or a private foundation. And that typically, is an expensive process, typically doesn't make sense unless you have maybe $1 million, $2 million to put into it. There's a lot of barriers with, again, having an attorney and having to getting your tax exemption status and annual tax filings every year. So it's been something that's, again, like I would say, has been difficult for a lot of families to actually do and start in a meaningful and proper way, following all the rules of law. So one of the solutions that I talked to you about today, the donor advised fund, it actually was created as a way to democratize the idea of endowments, right? So a donor advised fund effectively does the very similar thing as what a private foundation does, but without the cost and the setup and the annual filing. And there are mechanisms in place, for example, where you can name a successor grantor who can continue to give on your behalf even after you're gone. So we said, look, we've been using donor advised funds, alhamdulillah, for a long time now. Now we have this idea of waqf. Is there a way that we can take the idea of waqf and democratize that so it becomes more available to our community as well? So alhamdulillah, we were able to find a solution where, again, we use a donor advised fund as a specialize it, again, so that the income is the principal is protected, only income is distributed. You can have a field of interest that you define in terms of what organization you want to benefit. For example, you want to set up a waqf for Helping Hand for relief and development. You could do that, or for the mission that you're passionate about. And you can ensure that, again, only income is generated from that. So that's something called waqfi daf, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me if you'd like to learn more about that as well.
I appreciate that, Sister Fatima. I think my question also was more specifically from an institutional perspective, like what is there a contact? Should we go to the website to contact you in terms of looking into opening endowment?
Sure. Yeah, sure. You're more than welcome to reach out to me, either through our website. If you go there, you'll be able to schedule a meeting, or you can reach out to me. Brother Humayun put my contact information. I would just say the phone number actually is 703-207-7005. So 703-207-7005.
I usually call you on the other. No, but for the resources, we do have Sister Fatma's number on our website. There is a page with references. There are about a dozen lawyers who are available to help you with Sharia-based compliances. And Sister Fatma, Brother Abid, Brother Yasir, Brother Furqan, all those contacts I've shared in the group chat. these are the best resources we have screened through quite a long research. And alhamdulillah, we have been successful to have these 4 very actively involved with us. Again, Sister Fatima is there, Brother Abid Awaz is there, Sharia Wiz, Brother Furqan is there with Islamic Wills USA, and Brother Yasir Ali, who's there with as an Islamic lawyer based in California. Sister Fatima and Brother Furqan are in Chicago. Brother Abid is in New Jersey. And I'm in New Hampshire, always there for you to help you connect with these 4 individuals as much as we can.
Brother, if I can just add one thing.
So I want to add another thing to it too. With your
Okay.
last questions came to my mind, and I'll ask you.
Okay, I just wanted to say, again, we've talked about a lot of ideas, and if you are thinking, well, how could I use these ideas, even especially to help Helping Hand for Relief and Development, Brother Humayun can connect us. Alhamdulillah, we've been able to kind of help other donors who become philanthropists essentially by seeing again what kind of assets are beneficial for them to potentially donate. How can they actually make this wish of theirs of supporting a hospital or providing a care to orphans, whatever that might be. How can we make it a reality? So inshallah, like we talked a lot about general information here, but alhamdulillah, we're happy to help donors looking to support Helping Hand for Relief and Development figure that out. So just wanted to put that out there.
Sister Fatma, a question came up, and it has been asked me a couple of times while I'm talking to customers or donors, or is will important? Yes, we all know. If we don't have a will, can trust help our asset if we pass away today?
Yeah, so I would say like wills and trusts work together. So basically a trust can be effective as well. It's what we call a revocable trust is an effective way to, again, avoid the process of involving the courts. So if you don't want your assets in your estate to go through what's called the probate process and the court system, you can have a trust to bypass that. It makes it a lot easier for your family as well. And again, it can avoid the cost and the time that it takes to get through probate. But you still need to have a will. So, depending on, again, your discussions with your estate planning lawyer, they will likely be recommending probably having a will as well as a trust, because there may be some assets, that you don't end up transferring to the trust. And so you still need a will there to make sure that there's direction of what to do with those assets. So part of it is, again, planning for the unknown, right? There's things that we can plan that we know will happen, but a lot of this is also planning for the unknown. So we have to have things in place that if things aren't exactly as we think they might be, there's still something that we can fall back on.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair to Brother Shanan and Sister Fatma for taking that time in the evening to help us with this. In the end, it's just, alhamdulillah, we have learned a lot of, it was an inspiring session. And I actually learn every time I come to these sessions and whatnot. And my heartfelt thank goes to Sister Fatma. She's been with us for more than 3 years. We have been consulting with us, and we chose her organization to become our endowment managers. So it's been a blessed journey, like Sister Fatma says. She's there to help us. And yes, 3 years, 4 years ago, when Javed Bhai called me to take this position, my first question to be, Javed Bhai, I'm not a financial expert. He said, I know you will do it. And thanks to people like Sister Fatma, Brother Abid, Brother Furqan, and Brother Yasir have made my job so easy. That's why people ask me, my donors and well-wishers ask me, Humayun Bhai, how do you have so much time to do so much around other than your job? Because of these individuals, because I just pass on our donors, our clients to them. They do all the job, hard work, and the work is get done. So Jazakallah khair, Sister Fatma, to be there, and she's there with just a phone call away every time I've called her. I really appreciate it. Did I end it by mistake? No, sorry. So it was a good thing. At the end, I will just humbly invite you again, like I said in the morning, Helping Hand provides the opportunity to create a lasting legacy, which will last beyond our lives, which will be a sadqa jariyah for us for many, 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 many years to come. Maybe till the end of the year it will come, as long as Helping Hand is alive. Please do visit our endowment fund at hhrd.org/endowment, and do visit our hospital page at hhrd.org/kindheart to learn about these two projects and how your legacy can be continued for your life. Just want to make a dua for all of us that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us, protect us, and guide us and grant us the best of the best in this life to make our life after even better. Ameen, summa ameen. Just want to remind you, we don't let Sister Fatima go that easy after an hour. We have her again on November 13th for a faith, family, and finance, where she will talk about how we can make our giving, our state planning in a spiritual approach. So come in, join us for another session. And these are not only before the year ends. I'm trying to get you all state planning and a will session, either with Brother Abid, Brother Furqan, or Brother Yasir Ali, to come in and just have this introductory things. Like our Sister Fatma said, there's a lot in there to learn, to absorb, to grasp, to figure out where and what we can go do with that. So an hour doesn't do the justice. It's just seed, sowing the seed, as put it that way. So join us, and I'll share all these contacts with you. The video would be available in the next couple of days via an email. If not, visit our website, hhrd.org/plangiving, to have wealth of information. We are working with shariaviz.com. They are our provider for will assistance and whatnot. If anybody wants to join, they are offering 50% off on their will services to the first 50 clients who join through the HHRD website. And reach out to me. I can give you those codes, those links to take advantage of this. Then we have freewill.com. It's a non-Islamic organization, but it's a very good wealth of information, as good as Azzad, but Azzad puts on the higher level because they are Sharia compliant, simple as that. So I'm pushing both of these organizations, Azzad to put up a website which Free Will has it with everything exclusive for our donors. And I'm pushing Free Will to establish a Sharia-based page. So let's see who comes up first and help us, because there's a lot of information. We need to know about it and learn about it to create, do, and to satisfy our farz, our requirement, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, Huzur has told us, before we take that last breath, we have to have our wills, our state plans, our trust in place, that our families don't struggle and don't go wall to wall and whatnot. So Jazakallah khair for everybody's time.